Good day.
Hello.
How goes it?
Good.
She of the week back. How's that going
I
today?
know I hate my back hurts so bad, but I'm a little bit more mobile now.
Yeah, you seem better.
Yeah, I was shuffling earlier. It's bad when I can't even stand up, so I could stand up.
So here's a question. Because for years I was the one with the cripplingly bad back. And it has its moments, but it's consistently pretty good now. If you found out that I had made a deal with a witch to get rid of my back pain and it ended up with you, how mad would you be?
Did you do it intentionally?
I intentionally tried to get rid of it. I didn't intentionally choose you as the recipient.
Well, then I would just say that I love you so much that I would do anything I can to take your pain away, and I'm happy that I was able to do that.
Okay, so I'm going to ask 7 a.m. Caroline that tomorrow when her back is real sore and see if I get a similar answer.
I always do that actually from Green Mile. Whenever the girls are sick or in pain, I just kind of like go like that, like by their ear or by their face. And they're like, "Ah, mom, ah." I'm like, I'm just trying to suck out the pain, like so I could take it away from you. Although he had the benefit that he could release it.
He could.
But I'm willing to take it on. That's how much I love my family.
You sure about that? Because I was watching you come down the stairs today and it wasn't looking like you were loving that.
Yeah, no, it is terrible.
Sucks. Back is the worst.
Yeah.
My back only really gets sore when I'm carrying you guys around.
When are you carrying us around?
Figuratively. The dog might be getting attacked. Or actually, I know exactly what's happening. The little dog who has to go in the kennel when we're not in the room with her because she can't be trusted is goading the other dog. That's why we're getting that, because that bark is the I'm going to kind of bark but not be really committed bark, but you're annoying me. And I guarantee if we had a camera on them right now, that's what would be happening.
No, I bet that bark is, hey, you left me downstairs. Come and get me. I want to be up there with
I
you.
think that might have been how it started, but I guarantee the little one is goading her on.
You can't hear the little one though.
That's how she gets away with it. She's sneaky.
Or Pepper's just like, get out of there, get out of there, get
It
out
could
of
be
there.
that. Pepper could be upset that we're not there and she wants in the kennel.
I'm gonna go take a look. I'm gonna see. Although it didn't sound like she's.
No, she's on the other side of the room. Where is she?
Yeah, she's not at the bottom of the stairs.
Exactly. So I guarantee the little one is trying to get it riled up.
Oh, Sunny was bark. Yeah, I don't know. Dogs are very destructive.
Yeah,
At least puppies are.
yeah. I'm not stoked about the puppy's destruction today at all.
Yeah. Well, the other dog ruined like all my plants and trees, anything my vegetable garden I tried.
Yeah, I wonder if dogs just hate vegetation.
They love the roots.
Well, this one literally, she had to jump 4 feet in the air and snap a branch off to chew. And now we can see directly into our neighbor's backyard.
Yeah,
Not ideal.
that's unfortunate.
Yeah, not ideal.
Hmm.
Anyway, what's on tap today? Is it potentially strategies for dealing with obnoxious and unruly animals?
Oh, that's a good idea.
Kind of is, though, isn't it?
Well, depend human animals,
There you go.
yes. We have Dr. Anna Levy-Warren back on track today.
Hmm.
Part two, she was first on talking about executive functions, and today we're going to be talking a little bit more about very concrete strategies. A lot of it is, I mean, it's the foundational things that we all just need to do, right? From which all strategies come up with. I think that that's, really important.
It's a good reminder of how to set stuff up be outside of the moment to make that one particular moment better to manage.
It really is all about being proactive, right? In the moment, reactively, when frustration and anger and upset is, getting high, that's where we just create space and validate and not engage, right? The rest of it, whether it's proactive strategies for studying, for doing chores, right? We want to set up the plan in advance for
Just
anything. Yeah,
yeah,
getting off screens and yeah.
doesn't matter what the situation is.
But anyway. we'll get into specific strategies. Hope you enjoy. Well, Anna, it's lovely to see you again. Welcome back.
Thank you for having me again.
For those who maybe missed the first episode or just want a refresher, maybe just let the listeners know a little bit about yourself before we jump in.
Sure. I'm a clinical psychologist based in New York City. And over the last 20 years, I've focused on executive functioning challenges, complex neuropsychological profiles, and emotional obstacles to learning. And I always like to share that I have three of my own kids. And even though I was an expert in this long before I had kids, they really have shown me the truth of what it is like to live with these challenges. And as I've said before, brought me to my knees in this way. So I'm really coming at all of this as a parent and as a professional at this point.
Awesome. So, why don't we jump in? I mean, there's probably so many things that we could jump into. I'm all about the emotion regulation because I think that that really affects everything. And you even mentioned too, the emotional piece can block learning. So, I guess, looking at very concrete strategies that parents can help when their kiddos getting emotionally dysregulated, if you have any tools or tips or tricks.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I have so many, and tell me what's, most interesting. We can kind of be in conversation about it. But, one of the first things that I've had to learn the hard way is just to be able to see any form of sort of dysregulation as like an activated response of the central nervous system online and to really give it room and space. And so it's so hard. I don't know about you, but for me as a parent, not to want to stop it or feel like I can get involved. And I have to remember that when kids are dysregulated, that our voices sound a lot like the Charlie Brown character of like, wah, 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 wah. So all the amazing things I think I'm saying to regulate my child are like deeply meaningless in that moment. And I think it's actually just harder for me maybe than I ever realized it could be. So my first thought and this is from little kids to teenagers, when they get really dysregulated, is to be reflecting sort of the emotional experience and holding space for it and giving like long pauses. And if I get dysregulated, I say, I'm going to take a breath or take a minute and model that. And I've gone as far as to hide in a bathroom when I really feel like if I'm going to not be in there. Some parents will tell me that kids come after them. And I'm like, oh, I really understand. My kids have come after me, but I'll do whatever it takes to keep myself regulated and I'll verbalize what I'm doing. Like I'm just needing a minute to calm myself down. I'm just breathing. Like I see how upset you are. I do hear you. I'm going to be back as soon as I can. I'm right here. And I'm going to be honest that I even did that with my 16-year-old last night. I mean, it doesn't sound terribly different actually from when she was 3. The words may be more sophisticated, but the level of dysregulation is the same. And then and I then wait for it to really be over, to really like let it pass. And I try not to get scared of what happens during that dysregulation cycle. If it's throwing things, if it's, tossing a room, I really try to remember as long as we're all physically safe, that it can all be repaired and cleaned up and managed. And to just really keep those, even the smallest moments to the largest moments, to hold that perspective and lens of like, this will pass. When it's over, we can make room for it. Feelings can be reflected. I can model regulation in myself. And that's really what I think the practice should be. Does that resonate with the two of you in terms of your experience?
Yeah, absolutely. And the breaking of stuff, I know that is what often gets parents riled up. Like they just can't, let that one go. And so I'm like, well, if you've got a kiddo who's destructive, maybe we're being proactive in taking away those
Yes.
picture frames that you're worried about.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, though, it's like the TV where,
Yep.
they're going to smash that. So, yeah, that's a big one to work around, I find, with
Yeah.
parents.
I mean, I just want to be honest, and this is hard to sit with, but I've removed my TV, and that is a loss. But I have a laptop and I go into my room and I use it. And what I think about is, the level of upset I will feel if my kid is on that TV when they're not supposed to be, or they're throwing things at the TV that versus not having a TV for a while. And I understand the sacrifice in it, and I can really sit and hold space for the frustration in that. But I really try to think about each of those things. What is the actual impact on me. And it is much more harmful to me to have my child break a TV than it is to not have a TV for a little while until we can work on the regulatory strategies necessary and practice the breathing steps, practice the pausing, be able to have things to throw that aren't breakable. And to really and I have found that actually, I've lived through very extreme dysregulation in my own home and really know how much that can set me off. And I have truly found that when I am not set off, that it loses, that the intensity really does change.
Yeah. Well, emotions only last 90 seconds, right? And
Right.
it's, it's so if you've got a kiddo who's tantruming for hours, it's because you're probably doing something that's re-triggering it over and over, or something is re-triggering it over and over. So, what would you do in those situations where maybe there's another child, like a
Mhm.
sibling, right? And so all of a sudden now we can, take away all the stuff that's broken, but now the siblings are fighting and hitting and getting dysregulated and are on each other.
Yeah, it's such a great question. I mean, first of all, I love the 90-second reminder because I always think to myself, but it feels so long. It feels so much longer. I actually still use that strategy I did when the moments where I did sleep training, where I count in my head also to really remember how long things are versus how they feel. And my rule about sibling, my rule about my own kids and siblings, and I have two boys who are 17 months apart and who are particularly dysregulated. And so and one of them is significantly larger than the other one. So it is a real safety concern and older. And my rule is always, it is my job to keep my younger child, who's the one that was probably in harm's way, most safe. And I always make sure that that he can be safe. So I will, if I need to, I'll be like, you can go to your room right now. I will keep you in this space. But once he makes the decision to stay in that space, I will stay out of it. And I will, watch and say, like, if you would like to be safe, if you'd like to move your body, I will help you get your body out of this space. I will separate my kids in any verbal way. But if they are choosing to continue to engage physically, I am a person who will let that continue to happen until I feel like there is actually a safety risk. And safety risk for me doesn't mean bumps and bruises. It really means something that I'm worried. No one's going to the hospital under my watch. No one is like I'm making that level of safety need, like I'm protecting them at that level. But other than that, I'm really trying to let them work it out.
Yeah. I always said blood or broken bones. It's
Yes.
probably when I would start stepping in,
Mhm.
right? Fortunately, my girls never got that bit. Like the worst when they were little was just scratches. Although my older one does have scars still from her little sister's scratches,
Yeah.
but blood. And the other one that I find parents really get hung up on is they feel like they need to teach a lesson in that moment,
Oh.
right? So kids dysregulated, but he has just done something terrible, and parents want to put in the consequence or whatever that punishment
Mhm.
is. Then, how would you handle that situation?
Well, I mean, the story, I mean, and I think I may have actually mentioned this the last time I was on, but I really, and I said my daughter really taught me about the art of the restart, where when she was done having this dysregulated moment, she would say to me, "Can I have a restart?" And I was fuming. I was like, "There are 10 lessons that I have to teach you about what just happened." And then she was staring up at me, sort of being like, "I'm done. Like I'm over it. Can we move on?" And the way I've decided, to manage it in my own life is what I actually think works best, which is the idea of, this is not the moment for that. Like that there is nothing urgent that I need to share with my child. Like we got the lifetime. So I will write it down. I will wait till the next day. I'll wait till and I really think about the fuel tank. Like I will wait till our fuel tank is full and that we have been connected and are doing well. And then I would say, can we talk about what happened on X day? Because there's no chance she's going to hear me until she is fully regulated and fueled. And so that whole thing about like consequences and punishment in the moment, I don't really believe in it. I think that there's a natural consequence. Kids almost always know when they've done something wrong. It always feels bad. The thing they're worried about is, the shame. We're worried about the shame that's going to come in them. And that whatever lessons need to be taught can come significantly afterwards. I don't really believe that punishments work, and I don't believe that the sort of like the consequences that aren't natural work terribly well. I mean, I am someone who, if my kids like take their iPad and sneak it in their room and like stay up all night, I will say like, "Hey, right now it doesn't look like you can control your body around an iPad." And then they'll be like, "You're punishing me." And I was like, I'm really actually not trying to. And if you think there's a different strategy, like let's talk about it. And I make it as collaborative as I can, because I do think that the consequences together are more impactful. And I will say, like, how am I supposed to help you here? Like tell me what you think would be more effective. And sometimes they actually come up with something I'm think is not a terrible idea. Like, well, what if we have a lockbox and we keep it in my room because you have a lockbox in your room? And I'm like, great, that sounds like a great idea. Let's definitely do that versus me having to like hide your iPad in my, underwear drawer. Sounds perfect. But I do like to think about it in that collaborative way.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is so important. Do you have anything around the emotional piece?
Um, Not really. I mean, it's been interesting kind of from my perspective because growing up as a boy, I understand the in the moment physicality piece. I'm not one that it took me a long time to figure out how to deal with the more expressive emotional piece that comes with girls. So for me, I had to naturally learn to step back and think about how I was going to respond regardless, because there was a lot of times that where I thought I was responding in the moment in a way that was not particularly harsh, it was received as such. So I've naturally had to remove myself. So hearing that as kind of a way of approaching it is kind of reinforcing in a good way. So
Yeah.
I find that with my kids because I have kids with ADHD, right? Like the rejection sensitivity is so hard. And so I can say something like, "Hey, do you guys mind keeping the volume down?" And I have a son who will be like, "I hate you." And I'm like, I just need the volume to be down. Like, what just happened? And his experience is that, and he's like, "You're so mean to me." And I was like, "Well, what are you talking about?" Like, and I can really, even now, get sort of set off by like, I'm so mean for asking you to, and I can start to engage from this place, like
yeah.
we're going to have a reasonable conversation about it. And I'm like, okay. And I really try to go back and just be like, I'm so sorry that you felt that was me. That was not my intention. I'm struggling with the volume. And I really do try to ignore the I hate you until later. And I also find with ADHD that there's a lot of sort of the concrete manifestation of the feeling in the like, I'm leaving. I'm done with this. I hate you. And adults too. I deal with high conflict couples. A lot of time, one of them has ADHD and they'll say things like, "We're getting divorced," as the thing. Like, that's not actually the feeling is I need to leave. It's like, right. Like, I'm feeling desperate. I'm feeling scared. I've manifested I need to leave. That got to divorce. Let's backpedal, and think about it. And I find that kids do that stuff all the time and trying to stay in my own head about, I'm like, okay, that's what's happening, not what I hear is my thing that I try to work on myself.
Well, that actually just reminds me too, like I work with these kiddos and whether it's ADHD or anxiety is another one that I find it'll go to that, maybe I'll hate you, but then it might go to I'm going to kill myself.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If you take my phone away, I'm going to kill myself. Or they're just so upset that that's kind of where they go to. And so that's, I think, another trap where parents fall into not responding in helpful ways. What would you do in those instances when kids go to that extreme? Because I think there's a balance, right, about the seriousness of that and
Yeah, I mean, I feel that too. And there, one of the things that I think is so important around suicidality and self-harm is to actually, in a way that's actually, it's very, very hard on us as parents, is to have conversations about it very openly. To be able to be like, it's actually really okay and very normal to want to feel so scared, so overwhelmed, so desperate, so angry, to feel like I don't want to live anymore in this state of being. And it's really okay to feel that way. And most people feel that way in some form. But when you say, "I want to kill myself," because I'm actually worried and I want to check with you about what it means. So I really want to be in conversation with you about what it means. Like when you say that, like I said, can you tell me more about that feeling, and to explore it together and to normalize conversations about it and to really sort of get into it. It's like, is that something that you're thinking about doing? Like you've thought about how you're going to do that, or do you have and most of the time, right? Like statistically, it's not going to be, I have a plan. It's like it's a feeling manifested in like that's and also a way that you can really get your parents to listen, right? So it's a complicated intersection in those moments. But to me, the most important thing is to really be in conversation, and both professionally and personally, I've had to deal with kids who really are suicide risks, meaning that they have attempted to hurt themselves and attempted to kill themselves. And I really then have to go through a different level of safety checklist. And I have a young child who will say, "I want to kill myself" every single time I do take his device. And what I try to say is like, hey, that really, I need to pause there. I really hear, I hear the feeling behind it, and I'm feeling worried. So can you tell me? And I find that that slowing down of the conversation does help me differentiate what's actually going on, if there's a safety risk or if it's actually something that's expressing a really intense emotion.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're right. I mean, just with the statistics, I mean, I've worked with hundreds of kids who've commented and, said that they're going to, but a handful who actually like I'm going home today and have a plan, right? That I've actually
Mhm.
had to call 911 for, so it's common to think it, but not common to follow through with it. Maybe we can switch gears a little bit to something lighter. Um,
Absolutely. Let's do it.
yeah. Well, so what about, I know I'm just thinking about our own two ADHD girls, but studying, like just homework and studying, we know what's good, but getting the buy-in for them. And even like our youngest is bought in. She wants to get her learner's license, and there's a big test, but she's got to study for it, right? But when the moment comes, she's like, okay, mom, every night we're going to study. But then when the time comes,
No study.
there's no study. Something else, I'm tired, or there's something else. So, I mean, that's when she's bought in and wants to. But I know a lot of
Mhm.
parents are struggling just with how do we get our kids to do their homework or to do their studying, and they're failing, right? And kids don't want to fail, but they just keep stuck. They're stuck there.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually, it's again a place that I try to be as collaborative as possible. And I sit down and sort of say, like, hey, with the motivational interviewing, right? Like, on one hand, you're saying you want to pass this test, right? And on the other hand, when we go to do the things that are required to pass the test, are not there. So, let's look at that dissonance and let's talk about it and think about it together. And I really am somebody who likes to think about rewards. I mean, I remember studying for the GREs, and every time I took a practice test, I think I tried to skip that test, every practice test. I was so anxious about it. I really didn't like it. And the way I convinced myself to do it is that I couldn't really afford manicures at the time, but I was like, I'm going to get myself a manicure after every single time that I take this stupid test. Um, and basically got to this incredible space where I was able to feel motivated by getting a manicure. So I like to think with it. So it's like, listen, of course you're tired. You don't have to be yes, it would be great if you were internally motivated to do this thing, but let's actually really sit and think about it. And what would feel really great to you? Like, is it ice cream afterwards? Do you want to like go outside, and obviously like moving your body beforehand is always super helpful. But how do we set up a really clear study plan? And I definitely use timers, and I definitely keep it short so that if there's a way in which you're not studying, I'm like, what if you studied for 5 minutes? Does that feel manageable? Right. And we get that initiation step out of the way. So it's like both having the plan, the reward, the breaks, and the timing all together collaboratively to try to get it to move.
And I like that you brought up the dissonance piece. I always, did you ever watch Columbo? I always date
No.
myself with Columbo. Okay, I always date that. Did
But
you
I
watch
think we're the
Columbo?
Oh
same
yeah.
age, but I didn't.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, he was this sort of like he would act as this sort of bumbling idiot. He's a detective trying to solve murders and stuff. And he would just be like, okay, I'm so confused. On the one hand, you said this, and now you said this.
I
And
do
he
not.
just plays dumb, right? So then, like, the criminals are just like, and they just admit to the murder, to the crime, because they're just so frustrated with him. But I find that that's really helpful, kind of playing that, like, both sides so that they can help fill in the gaps can be helpful.
Yeah, and I think the one thing as well that kind of stood out there is the collaborative component, right? Like I think the theme through all of this is the collaboration component because you can you can try and paint the picture as much as possible, but if they don't feel that it aligns to what they want to accomplish or that they can accomplish it, it's never going to go through. Like it'll constantly hit a brick wall. And to your point, even on the stuff they do want to do, sometimes it's tough to get them to follow through because in a lot of situations, they're in our particular situation, she's looking for us to be the catalyst to initiate. And it's like, no, like we'll help set everything up, we'll help with you, we'll work with you, but it's not something we can do for you. So we're not going to force you to study. We're not going to remind you all the time.
Yeah.
You have to take ownership of it or it's never going to get done. And I think once you get that piece in place, it probably makes a bigger difference for sure.
Yeah. Well, for a lot of them, it's when the fire is under their butt that they're like, oh, now I
Yeah.
have to do it, right? So,
Well, that's how I operate, so I get it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and I get it too. Although one thing that's really hard for me is sometimes that, I mean, this just happened to my teenage daughter. She had an audition tape she had to put in, and she waited till the last minute, and then she gets fully dysregulated, right? Like she stays up too late, and then there's this the sacrifice inherent in that, and I find it really. I get really worried in that process. Like, oh no, you're off schedule. You're not going to do the thing you need to do. And I more find as a parent, like it's hard for me to sit back and let that process unfold and try to just keep the scaffolding as much as I can around the regulatory processes and focus on like, eating, exercise outside, medicine, like whatever is needed at that level, and then back off the rest. Like, okay, she's not going to do anything today. That's okay. That's okay. That's okay. But it is hard. It is hard to let kids sit in those mistakes.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Are there any other big, I'm just kind of drawing a blank now, but are there any other big ticket things or like common things that parents are really struggling with, or just some of the most helpful strategies that you find every parent should know?
I mean, I think that the way that and I talked about this again last time, but then I always joke that I could spend like, 10 days straight talking about the calendar and the impact of family calendars and how important they are. But I really think that we don't actually spend as much time as we should getting consistency and like routinization and thinking about the automaticity increase and how helpful it is. It's like, when we have areas of real frustration, like transitions off screens, and you're sitting there complaining, like, my kid will, it's always so hard to get off my screen. It's like, okay, great. That's a great moment to step back and think, how do we regulate ourselves around screen time? What are the routines around it? What is our like transition plan off of screens? And what are our anchors in every day? How do we know there's a beginning, middle, and end of every day that really helps kids orient and drop in? And those things make such a difference, I believe, in sort of the regulatory process and the capacity to tolerate so many of the things that we can't control. So to just, I know it's like, I know I have to have my cup of coffee at a certain time in a certain way. I know that in the middle of the day, I always take a particular kind of walk and breather. And I know at the end of my day, I always have, 10 minutes of reading. And like, those are the things that anchor me. I know they're coming. They settle my system down. And I try to really make sure that all kids have those and that they're actually sort of even documented in the calendar, and that there are ways that I want to work with families to think about how long things are going to take and modeling that and really getting things visually represented in the calendar so that you can look at it together and reflect on it together. And it's amazing how much morning routines and evening routines do really help, especially when they're visually represented and consistently gone through. Even though it's been, even though I understand how hard that can be. And I always say if there's one takeaway, for me, it would be, getting that calendar up and running and being in shared conversation about it.
And so, what would you put then in that calendar specifically? So, let's say you've got, I don't know, grade 5 kid
Mm-hmm.
who's supposed to come home, do homework before going on screen, maybe do some chores. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do a real visual. Like I will actually put all of the things in the calendar, and I will have it in it's almost going through like if you looked at an iCal or Google Cal, and you had the sort of day view or week view where you can see the representation of time in a chunk in a block. So you have both a visual representation of the amount of time, not just time, like in a digital clock style. And then I also utilize timers in that way because obviously we're like the time blindness or people who can't really feel time in any real way in their bodies. Having that representation visually is so helpful. And so I really lean in on as much blocking as I can get from people for that day. So I would say for a fifth grader, I would sit down and be like, okay, let's look at your afternoon. You get home at 4, you want how long of a break? Then we could, do this together. Then, what time was the end of the night? And I always try to work backward too. So if bedtime is at 9, what are we doing at 8? What are we doing at 7? What are we doing at 6? So that time feels real versus that kind of like going into the evening could be as much time as you want it to be. But I do like to do that with kids, and I like to do it really early and just have it be, either for young kids, I have them color in their calendars and have icons or pictures. And as they get older, they start to write it. And then I actually move to a computer as soon as they're ready. But I think that kind of really specific orientation towards agendas for the evening is only helpful.
Yeah. And I usually add in there like time studies, so predicting how long do you
Hmm.
think each thing, just to help them
Yeah,
build that piece. I think that can be helpful too. So make a
totally.
prediction how long this math worksheet is going to take you, how long putting the dishes away is going to take you, just so that they can start really understanding.
Hmm.
Music sometimes can be helpful. Okay, I think I can put all the dishes away in 2 songs, so about 4 or 5 minutes, right? Something
Hmm.
like that. So
Yeah.
depends. One daughter can get it done in 1 minute, and the
Yep.
other one takes 2 hours sometimes. So it just
Yeah.
depends. Yeah.
Like me and my co-parent, like I can do that in 5 minutes. It's going to take him an hour and a half. We like
Yeah.
to really, at different times.
Different styles.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Do you have any?
Nope. All good.
All good. Any last minute, anything that you think's important for listeners to know? I'm sure we could just sit here and talk for hours, but
No, I mean, I do it. It's like I love the game of thinking about the most complex moments of like, when people talk about it's like I can't get my kid out of the house and I can't do this. And it's just thinking, and I actually take a lot of joy. I thought it's so fun to think about all of the complexities and how do we come up with concrete solutions. But I think at the end of the day, the most important takeaway is actually to sit and do that with your kid as much as possible. And I think we don't do that as much as we could. And that is the tool that's actually most effective is their buy-in. So doing it in this way and feeding them the little pieces, right? Of, what is the thing that you want in this? What is the thing that will make you feel good in it? Giving examples from your own life. Those are the ones that seem to be most genuinely impactful.
yeah, absolutely. And I agree. I don't know if you use any models. I love Ross Green's collaborative
Hmm.
proactive strategies. So what I might do in the show notes is just put a little guide for the listeners if you're interested, just looking at what collaboration could look like. So an example and then some questions just to help frame that.
Sure, I would love to.
Awesome. Thanks so much for joining us. It's
Oh, great to
great
see
seeing
you.
you again. Lots of information for everyone. And yeah,
Yeah.
we'll end it
Okay.
there because there's lots to think
Thanks for having me.
about.